dietary therapy for CKD. So I'm Dr. Iseki, used to be working at the Duke University. So it's my great honor and privilege to the first speaker today, Mr. Toyohisa Aoyama, Director General, Forestry Agency, Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries. He's a great supporter of the medical right. And please get started. Thank you very much.
I'm honored to have some words for you, as I did last year. Even though my position has changed, I'm pleased to share some words at the beginning of this important workshop. Again this year, I express my appreciation to the organizer for your effort. In Japan, we still have an increasing number of elderly people, and the number of kidney dialysis patients exceeds 350,000. The overall medical cost for these patients remains approximately $12 billion annually, covered by the public healthcare system. Given these circumstances, it is essential to focus on maintaining our fitness, returning from a pre-disease state, and slowing disease progression. From this point of view, I would like to reiterate that diet plays a significant role. The low-protein processed brown rice package, developed by a team led by Dr. Sho Watanabe, president of the Medical Rice Association, uses lactic acid fermentation to remove protein from brown rice. It retains ingredients that contribute to good health, such as dietary fiber or gamma oryzanol. It is an excellent staple food for people prone to CKD whose kidney function has weakened. This development enables patients to avoid the vicious cycle between the colon and kidney called the gut-kidney axis by reducing the ratio of protein in nutritional intake and taking in the dietary fiber of brown rice. It means that patients can buy time before starting dialysis and avoid increasing medical costs. As I introduced last year, we have a saying, Ishokudogen, in Japan. It is an idea that medicine and diet are essentially the same. They work on the body to keep it healthy. We can prevent illness through dietary life. It is far better than receiving medical care after becoming ill. That is an ideal for both individuals and society, I believe. The packed rat is not medication, but we are convinced it creates a significant role beyond its taste if clinical trials reveal that it contributes to health with medical evidence. In Japan, agriculture product prices are declining relatively, and the rural sector is depressed, especially at the farm level. Increasing the value of agriculture products is one of the significant challenges. It was the policy priority of my previous position as the Director General of Rural Development Bureau, and I still prioritize it in my new position. This low-protein processed brown rice package can solve these two significant social challenges, reducing medical expenses and revitalizing paddy field agriculture. Therefore, the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries positioned it as a JAS standard in September 2022, so that we can expect the product to be more readily available. Thanks to the efforts of the people involved, this year it has finally marketed and ordinary citizens are now available. Having said that, I have another issue to share with you. It is difficult to prove the contribution of food to health through RCT trials as medicine does. If you are engaged in new drug development, you will build up two groups, experimental and control, to see how a new drug works, which doesn't exist yet in the world. However, this is not the case with food. I would like to emphasize how difficult it is to organize the experimental and control groups properly. Dr. Sho Watanabe is bravely tackling this challenge. In the future, as the global economy continues to grow, it is concerned that the number of patients who need dialysis, as well as people with overnutrition, will be increased. I expect through today's workshop, this packed brown rice from Japan will draw global attention more and will help dialysis patients worldwide and revitalize paddy field agriculture. Last but not least, I want to conclude my remarks by wishing good health and success to everyone here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aoyama. I think it's a very strong message for us. So we need to do many part of the, I think we have to stress our effort further. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Watanabe Sho, please. Oh, 22これでいいですか？うん、22になります。はい、先ほど入れたのであれば。
I welcome you all. This time we invited from 12 different countries in Asia and US and Sweden. So I suppose everybody suffers about the dietary therapy for chronic kidney disease, and I'd like to present a solution for that. Password. And I'm belonging, I opened the Medical Life Association and the sample of Dr. Denmark, which provided the communication link. And you may bring it back to your country, and only 2 minutes over. I see that. I have studied many years and then now I can say, so we try to reduce protein from them and the idea of because of the time limitation, I'd like to focus the deleted domain for CKD treatment. First, we need 2-3 years for develop this low protein domain because we try to make a balance from the farmer to the consumers. Otherwise, the price is always competitive, and the farmers could not get enough income from that. And we buy a very high price from the organic rice, 800 yen per kilogram. It's almost 5 times more than that of the market price. And then delete proteins and pack for export or selling. And we've got processing JAS. And this is a very complicated system. The center is the most important part. Delete proteins by enzyme and lactobacillus fermentations. Otherwise, is the normal procedures. And right upper part is the sample you can get here. And the lower part is the exported for China. We have some trouble to get food labels, and Professor Lee help us to do something. And I believe this is the best food stuff for CKD patients, but it's not sold in Japan and other places. Only China asked us to import nearly 300,000 packs this year. And I think we have 2 ways. One way is the production, and the other way is the flow of the evidence accumulations. Always medical society need a negotiation of dietary therapy using this. And to get evidence, we have to accumulate RCT papers, epidemiology, other methods to expand the effect. And if the medical society approved this protein-deleted rice, they may use for dietary therapy, and the patient and families are relieved. So I'm always fighting with a thick wall or glass ceiling to distribute this one. And for example, always the medical site required us the RCT weeks to years, but it needs almost several $million, and no food companies want to do such a very expensive RCT, because the drug companies can get money if they succeed to develop, and they just add the price of each drug. However, the food companies, how do they get money from the 300 yen, for example? For example, this one, it's very cheap, and they can't afford several $million for RCT. So I'm thinking the alternative method is necessary, and I wrote a paper about the pre-post analysis and post-marketing surveillance is a good example. You can find a paper at the last of my talk, So I think the definition of medical license is necessary. It's a long eating experience without toxicity, any health benefit by eating, and explainable mechanism. It's a kind of rationale, and pre-post intervention study from the epidemiological group and post-marketing surveillance is a good combination. So we can get evidence to add medical food. We need 3 to 30 years cycle to confirm the effect of dietary therapy. It's very simple. Just replace ordinary staple food to this protein-deleted genmine. And by that simple way, the patient decrease 10 gram proteins. The side dish, for example, we recommend a protein-based side dishes, but the patient could eat any preferred dishes with their families. So I'd like to talk about the treatment of CKD. The drug targeting the kidney is the popular way, but the effect is not so only a short, because the underlying pathological condition is the negative spiral of gut-kidney linkage in CKD. For example, if the patient becomes uremia, the intestinal bacteria changes to the uremic dysbiosis and leaky gut syndrome. So indole sulfate, for example, produced in the liver, and IL-6 or other inflammatory cytokines are produced, and it affects the furthermore to the kidney and heart as well. So if we take the low protein brown rice, the effect of brown rice component is a dietary fiber, gamma oryzanol, and antioxidant activity. And effect of deleting protein effect is the carbohydrate, enough carbohydrate energy, and low protein, low potassium, low phosphate, and low salt. Low potassium and low phosphate is very easy. So we also find the mechanism of that. For example, tryptophan, upper left, tryptophan comes to the intestines. The so-called bad bacteria, like E. coli or other gamma protein bacteria, metabolize the tryptophan to indole, and indole leaked out to the liver, and indole sulfate is produced to damage a kidney. However, if we use the protein extruded genmine, the bacteria profile is changed, and acid circumstance suppress the bad bacteria like E. coli, and good bacteria like Burratia vexillera or Bifidobacterium increase, and they change the metabolic way from tryptophan to beta indole propionic acid or serotonin and melatonin. So it's kind of long course could change to the good metabolic way. And I'm talking about the diabetes. I myself is a diabetic patient for more than 30 years, and I basically treat my diabetes by food and dietary therapy and physical activity alone. And in long course of diabetes, the urinary protein, like albumin, appeared after 10-15 years. And according to the increase of proteinuria, the drop of EGFR downs. So if we keep and also the CKD is combined to one concept. However, they have a different pathophysiological change, like hypertension and diabetes have a different to yield proteinuria. Some doctors will talk today. And in addition to that, the dose of protein restriction is very controversial. Japanese nephrology society recommend 0.6 to 0.8. However, the Populance international consensus is 0.4 to 0.6. So it's very difficult to ask patients to keep a strict low protein diet. Rather say, just change your staple food to this low protein genmai. So the patient does not mind about the dose of eating. Just change the staple food. It's very simple. And today, I asked the people who are doing the intervention study about this low protein rice, and poster session is over there. So please see, we cover the CKD stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and stage 5. The 1, 2 is the present by the Miyako Island in Okinawa prefecture, and low protein fermented brown rice in Indonesia and Nanjing and Tianjin in China, and L13 after my talk, Dr. Wakino will talk about this. And a pilot intervention study of Dr. Wakta and Saika. They select only 10 people, 10 patients, but the CKD stage is 5. The result is not so still controversial, but the apparently decrease of uremic toxins is recognized. So I think you can feel the result of our ongoing data. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Watanabe. So we welcome the comments or questions from the audiences. Are there any questions or comments? Dr. Inagi, please. Yeah.
I totally interesting in the result of future result of the intervention study. I have basic simple question. Genmai, probably we have various kinds of species of genmai. So, do you think is there any difference between species? すみません。玄米の種類によって何かこう違いがあったりするかっていう。
Yes, we are always looking for the best suitable genmai from the nearly 50 species. And so far, we selected 4 or 5 species.
From Japan?
Yes,
From
easy
Japan.
to remove protein.
How about the fiber?
Fiber. 繊維の違いはどんなんですか？ Fiber. Content of fiber.
Yes, almost 2/3 dietary fibers remain. However, in genmai, most dietary fiber is water insoluble dietary fiber.
Please.
Nothing. I come from National Taiwan University. I'm a brief and interesting question about, just as you mentioned, the genmai. There are a lot of species. Just now I searched the Google.
Okay.
Some people just mention genmai sometimes is dangerous. Probably they mentioned is so high content within it, such as sodium or another content. So I'm very curious about, just as you mentioned, the processing to remove the protein, some protein, reduce the protein level. In average, if there is no processing genmai, the median level of the protein content compared to the processed genmai, what's the difference? Thank you.
Yes, we delete proteins to less than 1/10 of the original genmai. And about the safety of genmai, we check the all about more than 40 different kind of measurements, and cadmium and other metals are always free.
Thank you. So it means some specific processing is essential, is important.
Yes.
So looking forward for the talk today. Thank you.
I think it's already tested in the Japanese official, right? Yeah, I think it's already passed the Japanese standard to make a product, I think. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. So next speaker is Dr. Professor Naoki Kashihara from Kawasaki University. The title is Management of CKD in Aging Societies. So,
thank you very much for kind introduction, and also I appreciate for your kind invitation to this great workshop. And first of all, I'd like to express my sincerity gratitude to Professor Sho Watanabe for promoting this very important project in our country. And also, I'd like to thank Mr. Torihisa Aoyama, Director General of Forestry Agency, to promote and encourage us to implement this project. My name is Naoki Kashihara. I'm immediate past president of the Japanese Society of Nephrology. So I'd like to give a very short overview of the current condition of kidney disease and also clinical practice for patients with kidney disease, particularly in Japan and in Asian countries. Oh. Battery of this computer is running out now, so I need to hurry up. This is my COI, and yes, the prevalence of CKD, chronic kidney disease, is increasing directionally around the world. It is currently estimated there are more than 843 million patients, or approximately 1 in 12 or 10 adults. Yes. So it is particularly prevalent in elderly, hypertensive, and diabetic patients. It is increasing in many countries in East Asia, Europe, and US, and is one of the top 10 causes of death in several countries, including Japan. For example, it is estimated that let's say 30-year-old diabetic patient with CKD shortened his life expectancy by about 14.8 years in men and by 16.9 years in women. So it's a kind of life-threatening condition. The prevalence of diabetes is expected to increase further worldwide. As of 2017, there are 425 million patients with diabetes worldwide, which is estimated to increase to 629 million by 2045. So in Asia, the increase is projected to be 84%. In Africa, 156%, and in Central and South America, 62%. America, United States, 62%. As shown in the figures on the right panel, diabetes leads to a variety of serious complications in vital organs of the body, including the kidney and heart and vessel. Currently, one lower limb is amputated due to diabetes every 30 seconds worldwide. So many countries experience increasing longevity and aging population. Life expectancy is increasing in the United States, UK, Germany, France, Sweden, and so on in Europe. And in Asia, life expectancy is increasing in China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Korea, and many countries, and Japan also. So Japan also has a aging population, but a remarkable feature of Japan is that the population is aging in a very short period of time. The aging rate has progressed rapidly over past 75 years. So this has caused mismatch both within a single person and in a society in general. And it's one of the causes of various challenges, including kidney disease and diabetes. So longevity is inherently something to celebrate, but at the same time, the disease burden is changing. The number of dialysis patients has continued to increase during this period. Currently, more than 350,000 people are receiving maintenance hemodialysis therapy in Japan, and more than 40,000 new patients are being introduced to hemodialysis therapy each year. So 2 years ago, the number of the new patients was finally reduced slightly. So we will continue to monitor this trend very carefully. So this panel illustrates the evolving trend in the age at which dialysis is initiated. Back in 1980, a patient typically began hemodialysis in their 50s, whereas nowadays it is more common for individuals to commence hemodialysis when their over 17 years old. Dialysis therapy treatment has transitioned to a kind of a medical care for end of life medical care. So the average age of the initiation of dialysis is gradually increasing, reflecting this trend. The mortality, sorry. Next slide. So average age of initiation of hemodialysis is gradually increasing. So reflecting this trend, the mortality rate of dialysis patients is also increasing. The main cause of the death of hemodialysis patients are infections, cardiovascular disease, such as ischemic heart disease and heart failure, and also cancer. So in this aging society, such as Japan, the burden of disease burden is changing in this way. The number of patients with kidney failure is increasing, and the number of patients with heart failure has exceeded more than 1.2 million in Japan, and dementia and cancer are also on the rise. So consequently, while overall life expectancy is on the rise, the duration of healthy life is not increasing at the same rate. So let's examine, look at the functional and morphological changes that occur in the kidney at the individual age. GFR declines in both men and women as they get older. In the Japanese population, the average decline in GFR ranges from 0.8 to 1.0 ml per minute after the age of 60. The estimated data also indicate that an estimated GFR below 45 ml per minute may predispose the patient to renal failure over their lifetime. So next, let's look at the changes that occur in renal tissues with aging. The left panel shows renal tissues from non-cancerous site in a 76 years old male patient who had his kidney removed for renal cancer. Thickening of intima and media of small and medium-sized arteries in the kidneys, resulting in narrowing vessel lumen, is evident. Widespread tubular atrophy, and interstitial fibrosis can be seen in a wide areas. The part of the glomerulus is collapsed. So it is believed that decline in GFR with age is a reflection of these tissue changes. As a result, the prevalence and severity of CKD rise with age. It has been shown that 40% of general population over the age of 65 and more than 50% of those over the age of 70 years old have chronic kidney disease. So I'd like to briefly summarize the last part of my talk. The renal function undergoes several changes in the elderly, which can be summarized as follows. Number one, there is a decrease in renal blood flow, RBF. So the distribution of blood flow from cortex to medulla in the kidney. Number three, a progressive decline in GFR. The rate of GFR decline in Japan is, as I mentioned, minus 0.8 to minus 1.0 ml per minute. So the impaired sodium excretion and concentration power. So hypertension is elderly induced due to sodium. Hyponatremia. Hyponatremia is easily induced due to sodium loss. The capacity for sodium excretion is diminished, potentially leading to hypertension. I'm afraid the battery has gone. It's not my computer. I'm afraid this is a kind of message to me to quit my talk now. Well, I'm grateful, I hope. I don't have much to talk about. I like to skip the slide to shorten my talk. So another challenge faces by the elderly is the frailty. As the individuals age, there is a decline in muscle mass and advancement of frailty, which can increase the risk of falls and bone fracture. When addressing the dietary therapy of the elderly, it is essential to consider a strategy for preventing sarcopenia, loss of muscle mass. So another challenge, currently, another challenge faced by the elderly is frailty. Yes, I've mentioned already. This one, okay. Currently, several renal-protective agents are available, including RAS inhibitors, SGLT2 inhibitors, and MRAs, with ongoing development in this field. However, the cornerstone of the treatment lies in maintaining a healthy lifestyle, which is based on a proper diet, exercise, and sleep. So this data shows the extent to which cardiovascular or renal events can be prevented with each drug. Further risk reduction should be achieved. So we can easily recognize the very broad area of red areas. That means there are huge residual risks. So we need to minimize this residual risk somehow. So here's a general summary, a brief summary of key considerations regarding to renal nutrition in an aging society. So understanding physiological changes in renal function with aging is needed. A reduction in renal blood flow and GFR, the impairment in sodium retention and excretion, along with the diminished urinary concentrating and diluting ability. So, while dietary guideline is standardized for non-elderly population, so it is crucial to avoid a one-size-fits-all approach and tailor recommendations to each individual's needs. Protein intake should be restricted to at least 0.8 grams per kilogram per day for patients at high risk of end-stage kidney failure, provided they have adequate nutritional intake, and also salt restriction that is needed. So encourage salt restriction to 3 to 6 grams per day, with particular attention to preventing hyponatremia. So this is last slide. Various treatment and measures have been established for kidney disease from its onset to final stage of end-stage renal failure. Dietary therapy is always fundamental in all stages of disease and should be appropriate for each stage of the kidney disease. So we hope this workshop will contribute to the proper implementation of dietary therapy for patients with chronic kidney disease. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kashara. Sorry for the trouble. And any comment or questions from the audience? Dr. Wakino?
Thank you very much. Very instructive and a very good talk. I have one question regarding the sodium intake. You mentioned that sodium intake should be 3 to 6 per day, but you stressed the limitation. Two limitation is dangerous, not hyponatremia. But I recognize that the recent guideline from the Japanese Society of Nephrology, this was taken out, so that there is no good evidence about the lower limitation of sodium intake. How do you think about that? You believe that the lower limitation is important or necessary?
Thank you very much for very good questions. I'm not confident at all, but I suppose I agree with this guideline. We couldn't limit the lower limit of sodium intake, but when we look at the various societies in the world, some population have maybe 2 to 3 grams per day of salt every day. So they are quite healthy still.
But how about the Japanese race? Because Japanese race is very acquainted with the high sodium intake for a long time. So the abrupt reduction of the sodium intake is, I think it's very, of course, the scientific evidence tells that there is some race which tells only 2 or 0 grams sodium. So the evidence is not so rigid, but I think the Japanese race, its abrupt reduction of sodium is very, I think it's just my opinion, so I agree with that.
Okay, thank you very much for your suggestions. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. No?
Greater Sangha from Bangkok, Thailand. We have a chance to conduct some of the health service research in the rural area, with implying the multidisciplinary care team at the level of the district hospital, and also at the village level we have the community care network from the nurse in the sub-district health office and village health volunteers. And we try to convince the patients, CKD patients, diabetes, and also not diabetes, with the repeated the same tone of the education about the salt. By collecting 24-hour urine, we can measure the total 24-hour urine excretion, which is supposed to be equivalent to the dietary salt intake. And it turns out that during the study, the average sodium excretion is about 3 to 3.5 grams of sodium per day, whereas the national level of the sodium intake for the Thai people is about 6 grams or something, 6 to 8 grams of sodium per day. So what I'm trying to say is that even though the Thai food is quite delicious and quite a little bit salty, just next to the Japanese food, but anyhow, with the repeated education to the rural area, villagers who have a very low and limited education, they can perceive that, and they can change the dietary intake of the salt to the quite satisfactory level, about 3 to 3.5 grams of sodium.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe Thai food is the most healthy food in the world, one of the most healthy food in the world. I love it. So I don't have any scientific comments to your questions.
Okay. Any other question or comment? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kashihara. Sorry for the trouble.
That's all right. Thank you very much.
Because the next speaker is Angela Wang, but she's still not at is she there? So instead of Angela, I think I have to replace for the presentations. Okay.
Oh, can we proceed with the Angela move or not?
Okay, so my talk is about sustainable diet goals for CKD patients. So location of Okinawa in Asia, as you know, that also the middle of this attendees, about 2,000 kilometers, people are here. And otherwise, that approach is a remote presentation. So this is 2004, 20 years ago, the Time magazine has featured that Okinawa has long been a world famous area of longevity. That was 20 years ago. Now it's not because of the large changes of lifestyles, increasing the obesity and sedentary, no activity, body activity. So I think it's quite interesting. So I am involved in the 4 cohort in Okinawa. The one is Okinawa dialysis study. That since the beginning of dialysis therapy in 1971 to up to 2020, I am collecting data of about 50 years. So I'm currently have about 16,000 dialysis specimens in Okinawa. So I'm now surveying their fate, whether they died or survived or get transplant or not. And also I have data on the Okinawa Health Promotion Screening, General Screening Registry, and also the Japan Specific Health Check Product study since the beginning of 2008. And also they're currently working at the Okinawa Nakama Clinic sleep study. So I'll just mention that the result, in particular related to dietary problem. So about the Okinawa dialysis study, it's I presented or reported with the 20 years and 30 years. The number was 1,900 and 2,000, 5,000, and now it is approaching about 15,000. So I can examine the change in the demographics. So this is one slide and comparing to the Japanese Society for Dialysis Therapy. It's a whole nation's data. And as you can see here from the 1983, that is a start of computer registry in Japan, 1983. So since then, the prevalence per million population is larger in Okinawa than total Japan. It's about now 3,500 per million population. That's quite high. And this is a change in primary renal disease for incident ESRD patient. And since 1998, the diabetes is the #1 cause of renal disease, end-stage renal disease. But as you can see here, that the number is stable, relatively. I hope it's decreasing. And the #1 cause of chronic glomerulonephritis was 26 years ago. Now it's declining sharply, steadily. And the #1 cause is now is nephrosclerosis. And third is probably unknown cause of renal disease. And as you can see here, that there's quite clear gender difference in the incidence of renal disease. Men is about twice as high as women. So, as you can see here, the woman is quite stable or slightly decreasing. So that problem is what is the cause of gender difference? This is also the clinical question. And also, as you showed Dr. Kashihara, this is incidence and prevalent dialysis patient. So both of the factors are more than 70 years. So it's quite ESRD is quite common in for Japan because of the our age is Dankai Sedai is a large number. So the dialysis patient has to increase. And the second cohort is I have the dialysis registry and also the General Health Maintenance Association registry. So we can combine two registries and see if we identify a dialysis patient in the screening registry, so the predictors of developing ESRD. So the first and quite important observation is the power of dipstick proteinuria. So this is the 17 years follow-up study. So it's quite clear that if you have the only one time of urine dipstick, but it's quite clear that the higher the dipstick positive rate of proteinuria, you have a good higher chance of developing ESRD. But even if you are negative proteinuria, but you don't know next day you may get proteinuria or 3 years later. So nobody knows what's your future. But if you see the 1 year later, there's no difference or looks like no difference. But it's from the second year that's quite clear that the difference is appear. And also the other showed you that what is the gender difference in ESRD by body mass index. This is data from taken 1983. That the woman seems no effect on obesity on the development ESRD, but men has clear positive rate of increasing ESRD incidence by BMI. So I don't know what the explanation for this. And because of this observational data, we are asked to collaborate with the international work groups. So we said it's a prognosis consortium. So they did a selection process here, shown here. So the first phase 1 study, we had 16 million database shown here. In Okinawa 83 and 93 data was involved in this large group of data. So in this group, we are doing once a year at the American Society of Nephrology. We get together and a half-day conference. So last year was both in Philadelphia. So the exchange the ideas and progress report. So the recent one is just published in JAMA, EGFR, albuminuria, and adverse outcomes and individual participant data meta-analysis. So the writing group, the number is about 80 researchers. So in this meta-analysis, we reported 10 adverse outcomes, such as all-cause mortality, cardiovascular mortality, stroke, myocardial infarction, heart failure, kidney failure with replacement therapy, dialysis, and AKI, and atrial fibrillation, and hospitalization, any cause of hospitalization, and peripheral artery disease. These 10 outcomes are clearly related about CKD. And this is the almost, we did the number 103 papers from this cohort groups. And cohort 3 is Japan-specific health tech study. So annual health tech strategy initiated by the Japanese government in 2008. They focus on metabolic syndrome. So the primary prevention for lifestyle-related diseases, selection and hierarchy of health guidance of the early diagnosis and intervention of metabolic syndrome for the target is 40 to 74 years and insured persons. At that times, there are 52 million people and cost-free for individual. But unfortunately, that participation rate was not so high, 30% of 2008 and 2017 is 37%. So, but the number is quite big. And in this study, we did the questionnaire on lifestyle, as shown here. The weight gain, exercise habit, walking habit, gait speed, change in body weight. And regarding the eating speed, eating before bed, snacks, skipping breakfast, drinking alcohol, these 5 questionnaires. So based on this questionnaire, our group investigated on the outcomes. So Dr. Kudo et al. Showed fast eating is a strong risk factor for new onset of diabetes mellitus among Japanese general population. So fast eating is a sole predisposing factor among eating habits for new onset diabetes. So as you are aware, there's lots of factors, comorbid conditions. So model 1 is unadjusted. The fast eater was 1.26 odds ratio, but model 6 is adjusted for sex, age, BMI, fasting plasma glucose, SBP, and fast eating or regular drinking. So fast eater still significantly higher risk of the outcomes. But regular drinking, not much, is good, 0.83. So taking small amount of alcohol is good. This is quite good news, I think. And also the effect of CKD on association between lifestyle factors and all-cause and cancer and cardiovascular mortality. So healthy eating habits were defined as eating breakfast and not eating snack after dinner. So also the alcohol intake is average daily alcohol consumption less than 20 grams is recommended. But if you don't want to drink, you can do that. But this cohort, we showed this result. Okay, so the first cohort, I'm now in the full-scale polysomnography from September 1990 to December 2010. And outcome survey was done in 2012 to 2013 by chart review, telephone calls, and letter of inquiry. So we compared the CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure users and non-users for the obstructive CPAP. So because of the common background demographics are different, we employed propensity score matching and all-cause mortality and composite of cardiovascular mortality we examined. So then published 3 years ago. And as you see, you may not aware about this therapy, continuous positive airway pressure therapy. So the improves quality of sleep. And the result of this quite striking. As the hazard ratio for all-cause mortality and cardiovascular death was 0.56, significant, and for cardiovascular mortality, 0.54, but this was not statistically significant, but almost half of the non-users. But in the recent RCT in the New England Journal of Medicine did not show this effect because of the RCT. They could not involve those with heavy sleepy patients, because CPAP is already shown that it's effective. So RCT is impossible to exclude. So as you may not aware, but the nutritional element in sleep is recently reported. Many factors influence sleep, with nutrition being a key element that impact various sleep disturbance. Nutrition and the sleep is quite complexly related. And recent review showed that the meal timing is whether cause and result we don't know, but I think we have to be careful. Good sleep and good nutrition, or good nutrition and good sleep. I think this lifestyles, chrononutrition, this may affect sleep quality. So I was involved in the kidney disease improving global outcomes, KDIGO. The mission is to improve the care and outcomes of kidney disease patients worldwide through the development and implementation of global clinical practice guidelines, CPG, founded in 2003. It's a non-profit organization. So I was a working group member for the 2012 clinical practice guidelines for the evaluation and management of CKD. It's published 2013. So for this work group, we gathered in three cities, 3 days each, so 9 days conference, or so big effort. And just I obtained this news 2 days ago that's updated and published in the Kidney International Supplement. So in the chapter 3, delaying CKD progression and managing its complications regarding diet, the practice point 3.31 advise people with CKD to adopt healthy and diverse diet with higher consumption of plant-based food compared to animal-based food, and a lower consumption of ultra-processed food. And second is use renal dietitian or accredited nutrition providers to educate people with CKD about dietary adaptations regarding sodium, phosphorus, potassium, and protein intake, tailored to their individual needs and severity of CKD and other comorbid conditions. So in this sentence, we did not use patients, people with CKD, not patients with CKD. I think this is quite interesting, because we discussed before the guidelines, CKD is not a disease, or some people, elderly doctors say, I'm not a disease, I'm just disorders or derangement or some sort of, but for the insurance purposes or the reimbursement, we have to name disease. So in this sentence later, people with CKD. So patient, not patient with CKD. And the protein intake recommendations, we suggest maintaining a protein intake of 0.8 kilogram body weight per day in patient with CKD. In this here, patient with CKD, group 3, stage 3 and 5. This is also the quite clear, but there's a quite complex meaning after behind of this sentence. But 0.8 gram per kilogram body weight. So what is the body weight? It's not for obese people. So the body weight is also the problem. So but 0.8 grams is the key number. And about the protein intake, avoid high protein intake, which is more than 1.3 kilogram per kilogram per body weight in the adult with CKD at risk of progression. And point 2, in adult with CKD who are willing and able and who are at risk of kidney failure, consider prescribing under close supervision a very low protein diet, 0.3 to 0.4, supplemented with essential amino acid or keto acid analogs. And do not prescribe low or very low protein diet in metabolically unstable people with CKD. I think there's lots of discussions to write this sentence. And, but I'm not yet clearly compared 10 years ago, 2013 guidelines, but slight change. I think there's lots of observational data to stress that expert opinion. So the suggestion, so recommendation, but it's the expert opinion. Okay. And also the very interesting paper this year, January 4th, in the case Binet, a man with CKD, 60-year-old black man, stage 3B, and GFR is 35, and BMI is 25, and the GFR steadily declined approximately 1 ml per minute per 1.73 per year. So he said he has read that strict low protein diet might be of benefit. So low protein diet of less than 0.8. So this is the questionnaire. And when I read this paper, at January 4th, there's opinion 1 is recommend a low protein diet, and opinion 2, do not recommend a low protein diet. So I answered option 1, but about 271 people voted opinion 2. I think this is the current status of expert or the New England Journal of Medicine leaders, so 1 to 2. So this is mostly, I think, Americans. And so why do not recommend a low protein diet? So Dr. Woodrow stated about use of RAS inhibitors, SGLT inhibitors. So low protein diet is practical or safe, the question mark. And MDRD study, I think only one RCT I showed no benefit and side effect of on quality of life or adherence of low protein diet, question mark. So I think these are the point of discussion. So the for low protein diet, I think I know Tim very well, Kamuya Karanta other days from the UC Albina. So my conclusion is I raised 2 slides. One is from Dr. Robin Eady. He did 50 years of coping with renal replacement therapies, 25 years of dialysis and 25 years cadaver transplant. And he came to Fukuoka in 2013. So he raised 10 tips to cope with this renal replacement therapy. He raised here, but he stated eat a balanced diet. So he put the question mark on sodium restriction. And 1 year later, also this is a slide from Dr. Eknoyan. He came here for the AIDS ICURT, International Conference on Uremic Toxins in Okinawa. It's 2014. So he showed this paper, the interesting paper, the social environment as a factor in diet-induced atherosclerosis. The control rabbit put on the high lipid diet and becomes the severe atherosclerosis. But in experimental groups, had regular contact with, as shown here, several times days for weeks. So quite significant decline in atherosclerosis. So what is the factors of this? But it's very difficult to prove this effect. But I've shown that this is an animal study, but some sort of social environment is, even in rabbit, it has a significant impact on this atherosclerosis. So I think we have to also keep in mind this. So so I conclude my slide saying that we need to put a guideline is will take a long way to go, but I think that guide, maybe we can put a guide to buy from the guide observational studies or cohort studies. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you very much. Nice presentations. You say the guideline is very important for dietary therapy. However, you and other dietitians always say no, very low salt, low potassium, low phosphate, so. However, the patient could not understand these nutrient-oriented guidelines. So why don't you make some food-based guidelines?
Yeah, I think we have. I belong to several guideline groups. So the guideline is for the specialist, and guide or guidance for non-specialists or people. So I think first we should approach for the patient or people, not for specialists. Specialists is quite difficult group of people. So they said, oh, but there's an exception, or the number of sample is not enough, or the observation period is short. So I think this KDIGO guideline groups ask the third party to get different collection groups, all more than 10,000 papers. They showed us there's a number of papers here and here. So I think that at least in Japan, this guideline is always expert opinion. So we cannot recommend, just suggest. I think, but that is suggest for the expert. But we for that it is important. But I think that for the diet, I think it's good for our target is patient or needs help. So I think for that I think we need more export or have to appeal our opinion or at least our observation. So as you said, that it takes time and takes money. So I think we don't have enough time or enough money. So I think it's a complete guide. At least we have to take. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question.
May I add one more comment about the MDRD study?
Yeah.
Many nephrologists believe that RCT showed the risk of low protein diet. However, the energy intake in that RCT is only 2/3 of that. So I think it's apparently a failed RCT. In case of dietary therapy for a CKD patient, the reason of difficulty is the energy level and low protein intake.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult combination, but many doctors are not concerned about that.
When MDR study was started, I was in the LA, so we discussed about that problem. So the RCT has always a selection bias and the exclusion bias. So we said that those cooperated or agreed to participate. I don't know why, but many patients with ADPKD, which is slow progression people, or maybe genetic disease, so they are concerned about their disease. So I think they are more motivated patients about food, but it's many are failed to continue the low protein diet. So I think that every RCT has selection bias. So no Japanese, no Asian population, and so on. So I think the RCT has one. I was in the working group. One of my friends said that even the penicillin is not proved by RCT, or even the parachute is not proven safe by RCT. Without parachute or double-blind parachute, I think it's RCT is quite sometimes unethical. So I think quite food is also the difficult. One day is okay, but 1 week or 1 month, 10 months, 10 years, I think it's impossible to force them to do that. Yeah, that's the problem.
I'm Chanvida Pachotikan, dietitian from Thailand. I do agree with Dr. Watanabe that a lot of time that when we prescribe the low protein diet, we forget about energy. That's why the product of the low protein diet is low protein products such as in Thailand, we have some angel hair, other type of the low protein product that available for the patients to get adequate energy intake is very important. And to translate low protein diet into the practice is very important for the dietitian to, when you say 30 grams of protein and so on. So how we translate those into meal for the patient as well as the modified diet for the patient according to patient habits and culture is very important for the dietitian. I hope that tomorrow we can share some of our experience from the dietitian other country and include the Thailand to show that how we do it as a dietitian.
Yeah, just a quick new updated KDIGO guidelines. I think I could not find the deferral of the energy intake. I think that has to be stated in adequate energy intake, but I could not find a sentence of that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. I also have a chance when they conducted the MDRD study. I was a research fellow at the Johns Hopkins University, and I have a chance to evaluate some of the enrolled patients. And I think that according to the habit of the American diet, it is quite difficult indeed to have such a very low protein intake to that level to add on the keto acid. So always the MDRD study turned to be surprisingly negative study, which contradict to our physiologic belief of the role of protein on the whatsoever kidney damage. It's quite contradictory. So I think I feel a little bit skeptical about the conclusion, and perhaps the MD study mislead the nephrology community for more than a decade. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm pleased to introduce the next speaker is the Professor Yoshitaka Isaka from Osaka University. He is a professor of the nephrology, and he excels in the field of the orthopathy and the CKD, MBD, and also in the epidemiological research in nephrology. Please, Professor.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to talk in this workshop. Next year, JSDT will be held in Osaka, and at that same time, Expo 2025 will be held in Osaka. So please come to Osaka next year and enjoy. Today's my talk is adherence to plant-dominated low-protein diet in Japanese patients with CKD. There is no COI. This slide shows the KDIGO 2012. In the section of protein diet, guidelines state that we suggest lowering protein intake to 0.8 in adults with diabetes or without diabetes, and lower GFR 30. Dietary protein restriction of under 0.8 appear to offer no advantage, and any dietary protein restriction should include careful monitoring of clinical and biochemical marker of nutritional deficiencies. It seems that KDIGO 2012 is skeptical of the effect of low protein diet. This slide shows the Cochrane review in 2009. Meta-analysis of RCT shows the improved renal outcome with low protein diet. This meta-analysis analyzed 10 studies, including 2,000 moderate to severe CKD patients, and diabetic patients or children with CKD were excluded from this analysis. Outcome is renal death, including any cause death, renal replacement therapy, and transplantation. There was a 32 relative risk reduction in renal death in favor of a restricted protein intake. Why KDIGO is skeptical to the low protein diet? This slide shows the panel plot comparison. The smaller studies provide smaller risk ratios, suggesting a stronger beneficial effect of reducing protein intake. That is a small study effect. Only one small size study provided a high risk ratio, suggesting a publication bias. As you know, MDR study 1 examined the effect of dietary protein restriction on the progression of chronic kidney diseases. About 1,600 CKD patients, GFR 25 to 55, were randomly assigned to a usual protein diet 1.3 or low protein diet 0.58. As you can see in the left panel, this panel shows the estimated protein intake. Protein intake was lower than target in the usual protein intake group and higher in the low protein diet group. There were no significant interaction between the dietary interventions and GFR decline. However, during the first 4 months, low protein diet was associated with a steeper GFR decline, and chronic GFR decline was 28% less in the low protein diet group compared with the usual protein group. This slide shows the long-term follow-up of the MDR32. 255 CKD patients, GFR 13 to 24, were randomly assigned to a low-protein diet, 0.58, or a very low-protein diet, 0.28, with fatty acid, amino acid supplementation. This panel shows the estimated protein intake. And estimated protein intake were higher than the expected protein intake. And there was no delay in the time to the occurrence of end-stage renal disease or death in very low protein diet group. Mediterranean duration of follow-up until kidney failure or death was about 3 years, and median time to death was about 10 years. Very low protein diet did not delay the progression to kidney failure. And energy intake was not different, and the level of about 23. And the very low protein diet was associated with a greater than 2-fold increased risk of death subsequent to kidney failure. When protein is restricted below 0.6, energy intake less than 35 to 40 result in a negative nitrogen balance. This slide shows the association between the dietary protein and 3-year change in total lean mass in older community-dwelling adults. Participants in the highest protein quintile lost significantly less lean mass over the 3-year follow-up than did those in the lowest protein quintile. Dietary protein requirements are based predominantly on the nitrogen balance, not on the maintenance of lean mass. As dietary protein is a modifiable risk factor in older CKD patients, we need to determine protein intake in the effect of on preserving lean mass as well as renal function. Protein diet restriction through the CKD progression in non-diabetic and type 1 diabetic patients, but not in the type 2 diabetic patient. 12 of 15 studies had a GFR decline ratio more than 3.0, suggesting that the early declining group may be effective in the protein restriction. KDOT clinical practice guideline is active on low protein diet in the non-CKD patient, non-diabetic CKD patient. Guidelines recommended under close clinical supervision protein restriction with or without ketamine acid. A low protein diet providing 0.55 to 0.6 dietary protein, or a very low protein diet providing 0.28 to 0.43 with additional keto acid, amino acid analog. This slide shows the ERICA studies. Very low protein diet, 0.3, supplemented with keto analogs, were compared with the standard low protein diet. CKD stage G4 to 5 patients were analyzed. Prescribing very low protein diet compared with the standard low protein diet is safe, but does not provide additional advantage to the kidney or patient survival. This slide shows the estimated protein intake. Adherence to protein restriction is a problem, maybe a major hurdle in low protein diet. Keto supplemented vegetarian very low protein diet were compared with the conventional low protein diet. Non-diabetic CKD patients, stage D4 to D5, were analyzed. In this study, 1,430 patients were assessed for the eligibility after 3 months of run-in period, but only 207 compliant patients were randomized. In this study, compliance to diet is very good. Keto analog supplemented vegetarian very low protein diet improved CKD progression. And serum bicarbonate was lower baseline but increased significantly in the vegetarian very low protein diet. This slide shows the safety and compliance parameters. Parameters of nutrition status, BMI, peripheral skin fold, medial muscular circumference, and albumin level were similar between two groups. Serum calcium level increased vegetarian low protein diet group, and serum phosphate level decreased. And also vitamin D therapy was lower in the vegetarian very low protein diet group. This slide shows the comparison of treating metabolic acidosis in CKD patients with fruit and vegetable or sodium bicarbonate. In this randomized study, CKD stage 4 hypertensive patients were treated with sodium bicarbonate or fruit and vegetable to reduce dietary acid by half. As you can see, fruit and vegetable as well as sodium bicarbonate improve metabolic acidosis and reduce kidney injury in CKD stage 4 patients. The key to halting progression of CKD might be in the produce market, not in the pharmacy. A diet rich in fruits and vegetables could potentially slow down renal disease progression by several effects, independent of decreasing acid load. For example, relatively increase of potassium over sodium intake, decreased phosphorus load, and increased intake of fibers, antioxidants, and vitamins. This slide shows the association between the intake of fruit and vegetables per day and risk of ESKD in enhanced participants. Participants were categorized into 5 groups, and comparison to the highest fruit and vegetable intake group, participants with less intake remained at significantly higher ESKD risk in CKD stage G4 to D5, D3 to D4, as well as all CKD stage participants. This slide shows the fruit and vegetable intake and mortality in hemodialysis patients. The median number of fruit and vegetable were 8 per week. Only 4% of patients consumed at least 4 servings per day as recommended in the general population. a higher consumption is associated with lower all-cause and non-cardiovascular events. Potential health benefit of plant-based diet. Decrease of animal-based food and increase of plant-based food. Decrease the phosphate viability and also improve the metabolic acidosis. As I showed previously, serum phosphate decreased in the vegetarian very low protein diet group and serum bicarbonate level increased. And increase of protein-based food increase the phytochemicals and resulting in the reduced oxidative stress and inflammation. Phytochemicals are defined as bioactive, non-nutritional plant secondary metabolites. Broccoli-derived sulforaphane emerges as a phytochemical with activation of NRF2, resulting in the expression of cytoprotect genes such as redox status and detoxification. As you know, valdeoxymethyl, an inducer of the NRF2, increase the GFR level in diabetic patients. This slide shows the renal response to ingestion of animal and vegetable protein. In chronic studies, 10 healthy individuals fed vegetable or animal protein diet in randomized manner. As you can see, GFR and albumin level were higher on animal protein than on vegetable protein. In acute study, acute renal response to ingestion of a meat or soya load of equivalent total protein content was investigated. GFR and albuminuria significantly rose after meat load. Plant-based diet increased the magnesium intake. Potassium and phosphorus content did not offer, and amino acid score were also 100. In a 2-year open-label randomized controlled trial with a 2x2 factorial design, we investigated the feather oral magnesium oxide on the oral or the oral carbon adsorbent ST120 affected the coronary artery calcification score in patients with CKD stage 3 to 4 patients with the risk of coronary artery calcification. As you can see, magnesium oxide suppressed coronary artery calcification in CKD patients. Plant-based diet increased the magnesium intake, and in addition to the decreased phosphate viability, these are benefit for the coronary artery calcification, and also increase the plant-based diet, decrease the glomerular hyperfiltration. 2021 dietary guidance also states the kidney function decline. Greater adherence to the DASH diet, Mediterranean type diet, and plant-based diet, and moderate alcohol consumption were associated with lower risk of adverse kidney outcomes. Restricting sodium and increased food and vegetable intake reduce the kidney injury. This slide shows the intervention study of plant-based diet in CKD patients. This study will enroll patients with relatively early stage CKD. No RCT have enrolled patients with CKD stage 5. Safety of plant-based diet in advanced CKD patients prone to hyperkalemia is unknown. Professor Katandade, author of this review article, is optimistic about the feasibility of the plant-based diet for CKD patients. But is adherence a problem? This slide shows the acceptability of plant-based diet for CKD patients. Survey of 46 renal dietitians about the acceptability of a plant-based diet, dietary prescription. Answer to whether the target of the consuming 30 unique plant-based food over 7 days is realistic for CKD patients. 60% of dietitians question the feasibility of a plant-based diet. Potential challenges to implementing plant-based diet for people with CKD. Successful implementation of plant-based diet is perceived to require frequent patient contact and ongoing education and support by a dietitian. Addition with low-protein diet and plant-dominant diet is the plant-dominant low-protein diet, including the less sodium intake and high fiber intake and adequate energy intake. Plant-dominant means over 50% plant-based sources. Plant protein ratio of Westerners is about 20 to 30%, but the plant protein ratio of Japanese is about 50%, because the main diet of the Japanese is the rice. So we designed the open label randomized control studies, including criteria is a CKD patient and EGFR is under 20, receiving ACE inhibitors, ARBs, or ARNIs, and the potassium level is under 5.5. Intervention is the plant-based protein restriction versus usual protein restriction, and protein level is 0.8. Plant-based diet is the ratio of plant-based protein 70%, and the usual is 50%. Primary outcome is the uremic toxin, and secondary outcome is eGFR slope, bicarbonate level, systemic and diastolic blood pressure, and so on. This slide shows the characteristic of enrolled patient. eGFR is 30.4, and this is the first RCT of diet therapy in CKD patients, CKD stage G5 cases as the main subject. Calorie intake and so on for the test meal is calculated based on the food glucose chart. This is written in Japanese, and the patient rated on a scale of 0 to 10 how much of the home delivered meal was consumed in breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For example, rice 7 and side dish 8. Adherence was about 90% in the usual diet group and 86% in the vegetable protein diet group. Only one patient on the protein diet withdrew after starting the diet. This slide shows the questionnaire surveys. Did you consume any snack or dairy product? Did you consume any meal other than the delivered meal? About half of the participants consumed a snack or meal other than the test meal, but even amongst those who did, most ate about 80 to 90% of the test meal. Did you any seasoning, seaweed, nori, soy sauce, and so on, other than the furikake? Only 20% of the subjects seasoned their food with seafood, nori, soy sauce, and so on. Do you think you can continue this diet in the future? Regarding the sustainability, about half of the patients in the plant-based diet group responded that they could continue the diet, and some patients continued the home-delivered protein diet on their own after the study ended. Please indicate why you think it would be difficult to continue this diet. As for the reason why it is difficult to continue, subjects were dissatisfied with the taste and the quantity of the food, lack of the repertory of menu items, not enough the meat and fish. This is the last slide, the effectiveness of the feasibility of the plant protein diet. At safety, plant-based diet did not include the serum potassium levels. Plant-based diet may be applicable to patients with advanced CKD patients. Thank you for your attention.
Yes. Shirokino from Tokushima University. Very nice trial. I'm very impressed about their attempt to this trial. One question is about the adherence to the plant-based diet. I see that your chart by the patient, by the participants, just split the side dish. Do you check the more clear, more detailed items of the food? I mean that a very exact confirmation of the plant-based diet needs the very detailed items of the side dish. I mean the dietitian check every day the patient about their side meal or something.
Dietitian check the menu of the vegetable plant-based diet, but this is important problems to increase the menu of the plant-based diet. It is a difficult problem.
Do you try some photo or hold on check the?
We do not check the photo.
Okay. Another question is, you very worship the plant-based diet effectiveness. I agree, totally agree with the plant-based diet is very future direction to the diet therapy. So then my question is there any drawback or bad point about the plant-based diet? Some researcher pointed out the essential amino acid is lacking as compared to the animal-based diet, because animal-based protein is similar to the human body. So the plant-based is something lacks the it's necessary to supplement the amino acid or ketone. Do you think is there any opinion about the drawback of the plant-based diet?
Yes, it is an important problem. In our studies, the dietitian checked the sauce and the menu. So the amino acid does not lack, but if the patient provide the plant-based diet in the home or something, it is a very big problem, I think. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I think that one of the drawbacks is about the palatability. As a Homo sapien, we have evolved from the herbivora into omnivora for many 10,000 or more years. So we get used to that, and that maybe the reason why we feel a little bit what you call craving for some of the animal protein. It's maybe inherited in our genetics. One of the slides that you presented about the benefits of the plant-based protein, I always surprised that if we look back into the effect on metabolic acidosis and the bicarbonate, actually in the vegetables and fruits, there are no bicarbonate, but what they contains is the citrate, and the citrate will be converted into bicarbonate. And also my guess is that in addition to that, another one could be the effect of the vegetables and the fruits upon the intracellular citrate and intracellular pH and also intracellular calcium. I would like to ask Professor Inaki about ER stress and autophagy. What is the effect of intracellular acidosis? So it's not only reducing the sulfate or phosphate, which is the acidic compounds from the animal protein, but also it increased, I think, the precursor to bicarbonate or citrate, which also minimize or enhance the reduction in the what's called the extent of the metabolic acidosis. So my question is there any possibility of the ER stress or whatsoever autophagy based on the influential factor of the intracellular acidosis, intracellular, not extracellular, and calcium and citrate?
Yeah, it's a good question. We'd like to investigate the basic point in the future.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you very much for sharing the wonderful the preliminary study. And my name is Park Ki-gang from Seoul, Korea. And you show the potassium level was comparable between two groups. And I am wondering whether there is any difference in the prescribing kalium exchange regimen like the Calimate and the Caros to maintain the potassium level.
Yeah, kalium solvent drug was not different between the two groups.
Not different. Thank you very much. The other thing is the 4 weeks is not a long period to see the difference in the eGFR and the proteinuria.
Mm-hmm.
But did you see any difference in biochemical parameters of serum albumin or other?
In this study, only 4 months were analyzed.
It's 4 months, not 4 weeks.
That,
Okay.
4 weeks. So we will check the brain toxin or something. But in the future, we'd like to analyze that serum albumin or the other eGFR levels. So we do not analyze yet.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Qikong Zhang from National Taiwan University. It's my pleasure to chair the section in the international workshop on dietary therapy for CKD. Yeah, for this part, probably we will invite two distinguished speakers to give a talk. The first one coming from the Niigata University Graduate School of Medical and Dental Science. Currently, Professor Saito Akihiko, being appointed as the specially appointed professor at the Department of Applied Molecular Medicine. And today, he will talk about the efficacy of low protein rice for diet protein restriction in CKD randomized multi-center control trial. Before preparing, so probably just now I have no opportunity to ask questions to Isaki Sensei. So the low plant-based low protein diet is really interesting. And one probably interesting, maybe we can discuss later, is about the magnesium. The label of magnesium supply will be a very interesting part. So all is ready. So let's give it welcome for Professor Saito Akihiko for his talk.
I appreciate the chair for the kind introduction. We are grateful for this opportunity to talk about our research data. As you know, diet therapy is very important for the patients or people with CKD. And the number of the CKD patients continues to increase all over the world. So there's a need for an innovative, effective, and sustainable dietary solution. Today, I'd like to introduce our data on the efficacy of low-protein rice for dietary protein restriction in patients with CKD. We received research grants from these companies. Rice is a major staple food, particularly in Asia. These steamed low-protein rice LPR packages ready to eat after microwaving are produced by 4 Japanese food companies using enzymatic methods or proteinase treatment. Each LPR or low-protein rice package contains only 0.2 grams of protein, which is just 4% of the protein content found in ordinary rice. Around the world, a low-protein diet is recommended for patients with advanced stage CKD. However, most clinical trials have found that patients have difficulty maintaining adherence to this protein restriction. For example, a Japanese study conducted by Dr. Koya et al. In 2009 reported that protein intake did not differ between the control and the low-protein diet group. However, in this trial, low-protein rice was not used. So what would happen if we were to use low-protein rice in those studies? A major benefit of low-protein rice is that patients do not need to make any troublesome changes to their habitual dietary behavior. Therefore, adherence to dietary protein restriction is more likely to be sustainable. Thus, our aim in this study was to evaluate the efficacy of low-protein rice or restriction of dietary protein in patients with CKD. We conducted a multi-center randomized control study between August 2014 and December 2017 at Niigata University Medical and Dental Hospital and 7 affiliated hospitals. Outpatients with CKD stage from G3A, A2 to G4 in the KDIGO category, and a body mass index of 20 to 27 were included in this study. Study participants had not used low-protein foods in the past years. Patients were randomly allocated in use low-protein rice or not for 24 weeks. Stratified block allocation was performed according to patients' estimated protein intake, calculated using Mahoney's formula from 24-hour urine collection during the observation period. Patients in the low-protein rice group were instructed to incorporate low-protein rice into at least 2 meals per day throughout the 24-week study period. Both groups had regular consultations with dietitians to achieve the dietary protein restriction goal of 0.7 grams of protein per kilogram of ideal body weight per day. The primary outcome was to covariance analysis of estimated protein intake per kilogram of ideal body weight adjusted for the intake at the start of the study. The following are secondary outcomes: change in energy intake estimated from dietary records, change in renal function parameters, change in clinical nutrition parameters related to the criteria of protein energy wasting, change in parameters of phosphorus metabolism and metabolic acidosis, change in parameters of quality of life. Uh, 102 patients were randomized to either the low-protein rice group or the no low-protein rice group. 49 patients in the low-protein rice group and 50 patients in the no low-protein rice group completed the study, and the results were analyzed. There were no obvious adverse events associated with the use of low-protein rice, and very few participants withdrew from the study. These are the baseline characteristics for the two groups. The mean age was approximately 60 to 65 years old. The mean BMI was around 24. Roughly half of the patients had chronic nephritis at baseline. And about 15% of the patients had diabetic kidney disease. Most of the patients were treated with RAS inhibitors. This shows the primary outcome. After 24 weeks, estimated dietary protein intake decreased from 0.99 to 0.80 grams per kilogram of ideal body weight in the low protein rice group, and from 0.99 to 0.91 grams of the no low protein rice group, respectively. The change was significantly higher in the low protein rice group than in the no low protein rice group. At the end of the study, the low protein rice group was receiving 0.11 grams less protein per kilogram of ideal body weight per day. Although not shown on the slide, protein intake estimated from dietary records also showed the same results. Now, this shows the secondary outcomes. The left side is a low protein group, and the right side shows the no low protein rice group. Week 0 to week 24 are shown. The data for week 0 and week 24 are shown in both groups. And energy intake did not differ. So energy intake did not show any difference between the groups, but the salt intake decreased significantly in the low protein rice group. We speculate that nutritional consultation became more effective when patients were using low protein rice, perhaps because the patient's understanding of the dietary therapy became deeper, or maybe there are some other reasons. Creatinine clearance did not differ between the groups, but interestingly, urinary protein, sorry, I couldn't show the pointer. Urinary protein excretion decreased significantly only in the low protein rice group. Creatinine clearance was decreased at week 16 in the low protein rice group, but it remained at the same level at week 24. This pattern looks like a kind of initial dip which is usually seen in patients undergoing the treatment with SGLT2 inhibitors. There have been debates regarding the impact of animal protein and plant protein intake on CKD patients. In this study, based on dietary records, animal protein intake decreased in both the LPR and no-LPR groups by the study end. On the left side. As you can see on the right side, however, plant protein intake decreased only in the LPR group, which is likely due to the use of low protein rice within the group. The decrease in proteinuria observed only in the low protein rice group suggests that reducing the intake of plant protein, such as rice protein, could potentially offer kidney protection in CKD patients. However, further studies are required to validate this conclusion. To summarize our results, after 24 weeks, estimated protein intake decreased in both groups, with a significantly larger change observed in the low protein rice group compared to the no low protein rice group. Energy intake and creatinine clearance did not differ between the groups, but salt intake and urinary protein excretion decreased significantly in the low protein rice group. Regarding other secondary outcomes, nutritional indices, including diagnostic markers of protein energy wasting, phosphorus metabolism, and metabolic acidosis, as well as quality of life parameters, showed no significant difference between the groups. These data, which were not presented today, are detailed in our paper. In conclusion, our research data indicate that low-protein rice has potential as a feasible tool for dietary protein restriction in CKD patients. Further studies are needed to investigate whether a low-protein rice diet can suppress CKD progression. Actually, we are currently conducting a more detailed study on the effect of low-protein rice on CKD progression, and we hope to report the results in the near future. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Professor Saito's excellent presentation. And now this session is open for discussion. So anyone call Professor Inagi for ask question? No, I will ask Professor Saito directly. I'm interested, as you mentioned, the study design significantly declined the urine proteinuria, so as the protein level intake decline. So in your estimate GFR creatinine level, no significant change at this moment, but the difference between the proteinuria is significant change. So if we exponential your findings, do you believe during such kind of study design, how many patients or study period you extend the result to more studied conclusions, such as like the end-stage kidney disease or the retard progression?
Yeah, actually, our goal is to investigate whether the low-protein rice can suppress the progression of CKD. So to to investigate that research team, we firstly conducted the first study to see if the low protein rice diet is useful for the adherence to the protein restriction therapy. Then we moved to the second research, clinical study shown this slide. And by conducting the first trial, we found how many patients are required to do the second research. And now we are conducting, based on the knowledge, we are now conducting the second trial now. So hopefully, in the near future, we'd like to show the result.
Thanks. Is there any question? Please.
Shimakino from Tokushima University. Very good results, and very encouraged. Everyone may be encouraged by this data and a strong hope for the raw protein diet by using the raw protein rice. So I also do the similar clinical study by using raw protein farming. I present later. And just a short question. Even after finishing this study, the participants want to continue this rice diet. I mean, the participants want to consume this raw protein rice, so voluntarily.
Yeah.
Do you have some information about that?
Yeah, actually, for this study, we provided the low protein rice to the patients for free.
Yes.
But after the trial, about 20% of the patients want to continue the low protein rice therapy, and they are buying the low protein rice by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd like to investigate such long-term prognosis of those patients.
Mm-hmm.
And QOL was not so bad. I mean, the QOL study was not different between those two groups. And patients are not so complaint about the taste or something. So they can, they showed very good adherence to this therapy.
Just the cost of this.
Yes,
okay.
Cost is a little the problem, but it's twice as much higher than the usual rice. But if we consider it as a medicine, it doesn't seem to be so expensive.
Yeah. Yes, it is better to apply this rice, the health insurance.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any further question? But no, we thank Professor Saito's very excellent talk. We will move to the next part. Thanks, Professor Saito. Thank you. For next part, we will invite Professor Inaki Leiko. He will give us a very excellent talk about the organelle trace. Currently, he is a professor at the Division of Kidney CKD Pathophysiology at the University of Tokyo School of Graduate Medicine. In addition to the current state position, he also is the associate editor of the Kidney 360 and Kidney International and the Physiology and as an editorial of American Journal of Physiology and Renal Physiology. He has keep on her study in the field of organelle trace. So today he will give us a talk about the metabolic alternation and the kidney damage, organelle trace and its clinical future prospects. Based on our understanding, we are what we eat. So food just like part of our life and also a part of like metal. Just like Professor Wada mentioned, we treat some metabolics by using some food. So it's very critical and important in this part. So for the globally, it's usually just like to check the body weight, body shape, BMI, or something like that. But in the several levels, we can find the different intake lead to a different energy supply. You relate it to the organelle suffer from a different stress, like the high glucose hyperglycemia. Sometimes it's like the dyslipidemia will lead to the several stress, like the lipid peroxidation and so on. So let's give a word talk to Professor Inagi.
Thank you, Jigen, for the nice the introduction. And I'm so happy to be here and to see all my friends. And yes, Okinawa is one of the special place for me because Dr. Iseki often guide me to come here to learn about the diet and dietary therapy. But unfortunately, I'm not an expert in this field. So I'm talking about the metabolic alteration and the kidney damage from the viewpoint of organelle stress. And probably I will give some the keyword for your future work. I hope so. So this is my COI. So yesterday we had the World Kidney Day. The International Society of Nephrology organized various kind of event all over the world, including Thailand, Korea, China, Taiwan. And the mission of this year is advancing equitable access to care and optimal medication practice. So that is a huge goal. So this internal session also contribute to achieve this goal. And as you know, metabolic alteration is the closely linked to the organ crosstalk. The metabolic alteration changed the profile of a toxic metabolite or accumulation of toxic metabolite, including uramic toxin. And these factors affect the organ crosstalk, as you can see here. And the another important thing is the frailty and organ aging. Some accumulated paper also mentioned about the frailty, organ aging, especially kidney aging, is closely linked or effect of the metabolite uramic toxin to shorten the healthy lifespan. So maybe this is become consensus, and you know very well. And I will introduce one interesting paper. This is the gut microbiome the analysis and the longitudinal analysis of 338 people across the 4 years. The gut microbiome analysis showed that the profiling of the gut microbiota has two types of groups. One is really stable species, and it looks like a fingerprint. Individual they depend. And the most important things is the unstable species. So this paper identified an unstable species that is really
close to the clinical phenotype of host the individuals. And this is also the close to the alteration of plasma metabolite. It means that the unstable species is one of the factor to identify the host phenotype, the closely related clinical the phenotype. And so metabolite, the metabolic the alteration by these species is one of the important things to understand the host physiology. And from the clinical trials, you know the three kind of immunoprotective drugs is available now, and their immunoprotective effect is very good, and probably good for the CKD patient, as you know. And accumulated papers mentioned about the drugs. These drugs has a different effect, but that they improve the metabolic the reprogramming or metabolic derangement of CKD patient. And some papers said that is the reason why these drugs show some renoprotective effect. So this data mentioned about how metabolic alteration is the key for development of CKD. And the metabolic alteration is closely related to organelle stress. So many papers mention about ER stress or mitochondrial stress. Such kind of organelle stress is the causal factor to develop the disease progression or phenotypic change, which closely associated with metabolic alteration. So this is my favorite research field. And I can say the recent advanced technology related to the omics analysis showed that omics-based medicine in the kidney is sort of really a beneficial factor and that weapon to find a new target for therapy or diagnosis of kidney disease. So many the researchers focus on the multi-omics analysis to identify the new target gene for CKD, or maybe to find the new factors to modify the metabolic derangement. So not only the DNA, RNA, but also the protein or metabolomics, the analysis show the detail of the character of phenotypes. So I can say even in the CKD patient, the individual phenotypic alteration is not equal. Like it's dependent on the person. So such kind of the deep and the detailed mechanism, including the metabolic derangement, is become how can I say highlighted, and these data showed that how chronic inflammation and fibrosis is close to the or links to the metabolic the alteration and metabolic derangement. And another word, metabolic deprogramming should be the one way to maintain the kidney function, as you can guess. And the one paper from the Ben Humphreys group showed that the serial comprehensive single-cell RNA transcriptome profiling showed a healthy tubular cell can repair that function. At that time, the temporal activation of lipid metabolism was observed. This suggesting that the change of the phenotypic, the phenotype of proximal tubula for damage or for repaired, there are some metabolic change is required. And this paper also mentioned about the failed repaired damaged tubular cell also show the chronic the metabolic change. So it means that the tubular cell, at least in a tubular cell, the cell fate, damage, repair, healthy, going to the such kind of phenotypic change is related to the metabolic status. So that is the most important things. So we have been studying the organelle stress, ER stress, and mitochondrial stress. And recently we interested in the link between the ER mitochondria, like the organ crosstalk. So the first time we found the ER dysfunction is closely related to maladaptive kidney damage or kidney repaired. For example, the damaged ER send the UPR signal, unfolded protein response signal. So under the pathogenic condition, so various kind of kidney cell induced the UPR pathway to maintain the ER and kidney the function. So UPR pathway is sort of the fundamental pathway, and the ER express the sensor molecules, as you can see here. These sensor molecules sense the stress in the ER. Then downstream, the pathway was activated to rescue the stress, the ER stress, and maintain the ER homeostasis. And sometimes these signals induce the apoptosis to eliminate the failed repaired cells. And most important things is the ER stress signal also regulate the metabolic homeostasis, because the ER function need the energy. So metabolic homeostasis was the sort of the downstream pathway of this UPR pathway, and enhance the ATP production in mitochondria. So it means that the ER and mitochondria have to communicate with each other to maintain the good organelle homeostasis. So I can say the ER can send the signal and communicate with the mitochondria. Then they each other, they can keep a good condition each other. And we also found that another ER molecule, STING, can also interact with mitochondria through the mitochondrial DNA. And the mitochondrial DNA release from the mitochondria to the cytosol activate the STING and induce the inflammation. That is one of the pathway to induce the acute kidney damage. associated with inflammation. So we found that the mitochondrial DNA also one of the factors to enhance the communication between ER and the mitochondria. And interestingly, the STING, I'm talking about the sort of the conventional pathway to induce the inflammation through STING activation. But the recent paper published in Nature Cell Biology mentioned about the STING is another, activate another kind of pathway and change the aerobic glycolysis by targeting hexokinase 2. So it's meant that the STING can not only induce the inflammatory the response under the damage, the stress condition. The STING also regulate the glycolysis in in some the situation. So this paper mentioned about hexokinase 2 is closely interact with the STING. So I can say that between ER and the mitochondrial interaction by STING and hexokinase 2 is the one of the novel pathway to regulate the kidney cell metabolism. So, and we also, that interestingly, mitochondrial associated ER membrane, MAM. So, as you know, the recent advanced technology identified the various kind of molecule which tethering the ER and the mitochondria each other. So, such kind of the tethering of the touching molecule may be important to maintain the each organelle, and we identified this the contact site is also important for proximal tubular homeostasis. So I will introduce that paper. That is from our group. And the Center of Innovation organized by the Japan Science and Technology Agency, JST, allow us to do some discovery cohort study by using the metabolomics analysis to identify the early early decline of the DKD to find a biomarker to identify the early first decline of DKD. So we enrolled 150 patients, grade 3, and collected the urine and blood samples at the baseline and 10 months later, and followed 3 years. And we performed the metabolomics analysis. And these are the human data was confirmed by advanced DKD to identify the biomarker candidate of first decline of DKD. So by using the validation of the advanced DKD animal model rats, so we integrate with this data and identified the lysophosphatidyl choline, LPC, that is accumulated in DKD progression in human and rat, especially in urine, but not serum. So the urinary LPC level is negatively correlated with delta EGFR of DKD patient. And these data was supported by the DKD rats. You can see urinary LPC level and the kidney LPC level increase as disease progress. And to make a long story short, we identified the LPC is sort of the biomarker, early detection biomarker of first decline of DKD patient. And in the animal model, LPC was accumulated in the proximal tubule by imaging mass of the LPC. And more interestingly, we performed a in vitro study by expose of LPC to the tubular, proximal tubular cells. And what we found that LPC was incorporated into the proximal tubules and enhance the increase the lipid droplet in the proximal tubules. I mean the proximal tubular cells. And it was associated with the decline of autophagic plaques and ER stress and mitochondrial stress was increased by exposed to the LPC. And it showed the tubular apoptosis. So, for example, mitochondrial, the ROS was increased in the cell exposed to LPC, and mitochondrial oxygen consumption also decreased by LPC. And the ER stress marker is also increased, suggesting that ER dysfunction is observed by the LPC. And interestingly, the intracellular LPC was accumulated in the ER. Then we check the MUM. So under the normal condition, the proximity ligation assay detect such kind of the ER mitochondrial the contact, but it was clearly decreased by LPC. So, these data suggest that the LPC is one of the biomarker to enhance the early decline of DKD, and that is the pathophysiological factor to enhance the proximal tubular damage by accumulating the lipid droplet in association with lipid the metabolic alteration. So this phenotypic change was associated with ER, mitochondria, and the contact the alteration. So what I want to say is that the kidney function, so mainly associated inflammation or fibrosis, is closely related to metabolic derangement. And today I didn't talk about the kidney aging, but so as the Professor Watanabe mentioned about the wellnic toxin is not only the causal factor of kidney disease, but also the aging, right? So I can say metabolic derangement is the sort of the keyword of my talk, and I really like to analyze how metabolic derangement change the organelle homeostasis, and to understand the details of the CKD pathophysiology, I'd like to they continue to work with organelle damage. So the last slide also mentioned about the organelle homeostasis is maybe the important basic the point of basic point to understand the mechanism or a strategy to cure the kidney disease. And as I mentioned, lipid metabolic the alteration is sort of the dramatic the association with phenotype of tubular tubular cells. So maybe lipotoxicity is maybe the important the issue to understand the metabolism. So this is the last slide. That our group, recently the female researcher and PhD from Korea, China, and Thailand. So the percentage gender balance is 80% female in our lab recently. Yeah. And our group is in collaboration with Professor Nangaku. And now he is working on the preparation of WCN24 in Buenos Aires as a ISN president. So I'd like to invite you all to join this meeting. A little bit far from here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Professor Inagi. You gave us a very wonderful and interesting talk about the organelle tract, especially for the LPC related the kidney progression in lipid decline in the kidney disease, especially of diabetic kidney disease. Now it's open for discussion. Any question for our audience? Okay, please.
Thank you.
I'm very much interested in aerobic or non-aerobic kidney status because of good energy from
yes.
So and so.
Yes. So our group also the interesting in the metabolic change under the hypoxic condition, right? So and the hypoxia is increased under the pathogenic condition, as you know very well. And in that case, HIF pathway, hypoxia inducible factor, HIF pathway.
Hypoxia.
Hypoxia inducible factor, HIF, is also the main regulator to modify the metabolic status. And the aerobic, probably the metabolic derangement is often occurred. And the HIF-PHD inhibitor can reverse the damage of the metabolic status. So I can say it is the HIF activation is one of the important the target to rescue the metabolic the status or metabolic and the arrangement.
Oxygen from bloodstream is very important.
Yes.
And hypoxia is stress marker.
Yes.
And it depends very much individually based.
Yes. Yes. So the oxygen consumption, the change of the oxygen consumption is also important to alter the metabolism, yes, especially glucose, the glycolysis, and not probably glycolysis and lipid metabolism is sort of the keep balance. Right? Yes, thank you very much.
Please.
Yes. We expect a lot of metabolic changes in diabetic kidney disease. You mentioned only one. Is it because there's only one only? Or because you have to study one by one? I think that there should be more than one indicator rather than beside the LPC, right?
Yeah. So maybe I can say the LPC is we identify the LPC as a new biomarker or early detection biomarker of the DKD fast decliners. But maybe we should do the validation cohort study, and we should concern about the interaction, the FBC and other the biomarkers. And I think the LPC is not independent, how can I say, the metabolic alteration. So it's closely related to the ER function and mitochondrial function, suggesting that another metabolic alteration is also linked. So the further analysis, they can identify what is the most main the pathway to alter the metabolism, or probably some molecules to maintain the organelle function, yes, like CoQ10 or mitochondrial CoQ10 or some the oxidative stress regulator or something.
For the last question.
Thank you so much for a great talk. And I'm from Okinawa, and then I have one question, and very basic one. But if I want to, I'm a clinician epidemiologist.
Yeah.
So I really want to know how many patients are needed to investigate for specific diseases regarding your metabolic diseases or lipid disorders. Because I have recently I encountered a patient who is probably lipoprotein glomerulopathy, and the lipid was depositing, and the organ function, the structure is deteriorating.
Yeah.
We are so interested in that. Is that any possible way for we are asking help from you, your institute, to investigate the contents or what the reason and mechanisms of these diseases?
Yeah, that is very important things, but sorry, I have no.
Sorry.
It's not expert in that area. But I can ask my
if I contact you for one specific one, and is it possible for us to ask help for these lipid abnormal mechanisms with using the technologies, metabolic mix, protein mix? Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's possible.
Thank you so
and probably it was getting cheaper.
Really?
Yeah, cheaper and cheaper.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's a very great
Yes.
thing.
Even the small number, if the disease is rare and the metabolomic data is clear, probably I think you can conclude some. And,
Yes.
you can publish.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to know that.
Thank you all. So of time limit, we need to move to the next section.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Quality global evidence from observational studies and clinical trials. And what about the recommendations of dietary protein intake in their current clinical practice guideline? Hello everyone, my name is Kate Sumida from the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. Hello everyone, my name is Kate Sumida from the University of Tennessee Health Science Center in Memphis, Tennessee. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Iseki for this opportunity, and it is my great pleasure to give a talk in the keynote lecture of this workshop. The title of my talk is New Insights into Dietary Approaches to the Management of Chronic Kidney Disease. And I hope my talk today can help you learn something interesting that is going on in the field of renal nutrition. I have nothing to disclose concerning this presentation. So this is an outline of today's talk. First, I'm going to talk about protein energy wasting in CKD, and then discuss dietary protein intake in CKD with a particular focus on low-protein diets. And then I will also touch on gut microbiota targeted interventions in CKD by introducing dietary modifications using plant-dominant low-protein diets. So the first topic is about protein energy wasting in CKD. As many of you know, protein energy wasting, or PEW, is a condition characterized by a loss of body protein stores and fat mass. This is a very common complication in patients with kidney disease. And according to a recent systematic review and meta-analysis led by the International Society of Renal Nutrition and Metabolism, the prevalence of PEW has been estimated to be ranging from 11% to 54% in patients with non-dialysis dependent CKD, and from 28% to 54% at an interquartile range in patients on dialysis. As shown in white areas in this global map, data are still lacking in several countries and regions. But even after the publication of this meta-analysis, some new data are coming out of a few countries, such as Tanzania, where a similarly high prevalence of PW has been reported among dialysis patients. So in terms of the mechanisms underlying PW in CKD, there are complex pathophysiological interactions. And to date, a number of risk factors have been suggested. And as shown in this figure, these include not only the lack of sufficient nutrient intake, but also comorbid conditions, metabolic derangements, and oxidative stress, as well as remic toxins and inflammation. And in addition to these known risk factors, here I want to note that gut microdysbiosis has also been recognized as one of the risk factors for PW in patients with CKD. And I will have a lot more to say about this later. Importantly, PW can lead to several unwanted consequences. And as shown in the green boxes here, these include abnormalities of lab parameters and body composition markers, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, lower quality of life, and high risk of hospitalization, all of which eventually contributes to a higher risk of premature mortality in this population. So given their complex and multifactorial etiology of PW, the treatment often requires a multidisciplinary, multifaceted, and individualized approach. And these include optimizing dietary nutrient intake, appropriate management of metabolic disturbances, such as metabolic acidosis, systemic inflammation, and hormonal deficiencies, and prescribing optimized dialytic regimens. And if these standard therapeutic measures are not very effective in alleviating the loss of protein and energy stores, additional strategies such as exercise and pharmacological interventions are usually considered. But as you know, among all these measures, the optimization of dietary nutrient intake or dietary modification is generally recommended as the first step therapeutic approach to PW in CKD. So moving forward, I'm going to talk about dietary protein intake in CKD with a particular focus on low protein diets. Over the past few decades, high protein diets combined with low intake of carbohydrates have gained popularity among people with obesity and/or diabetes as an effective means for their weight loss and better glycemic control. However, when it comes to patients with CKD, existing evidence indicates that high protein diets can do more harm than good on their kidney health. As shown in our glomerulus illustration on the left side, high protein intake leads to the dilation of afferent arterioles and increases intraglomerular pressure. Then, as shown in the right side figure, the resultant glomerular hyperfiltration leads to the damage to glomerular structure over time, along with a compensatory increase in glomerular pressure in remaining glomerulus, which creates a vicious cycle and contributes to progressive loss of kidney function. In addition, high-protein diets have been shown to be associated with several other unfavorable consequences, including metabolic acidosis, hyperphosphatemia, hyperparathyroidism, hypertension, anemia, and inflammation, eventually contributing to poor clinical outcomes in patients with CKD. Conversely, if we lower dietary protein intake, what we'll see in the glomerulus is the constriction of afferent arterioles, and as a result, decrease in intraglomerular pressure and increase in nephron longevity. When we think about it, these effects are analogous to what happens when we give our patients ACE inhibitors or ARBs or newer agents such as SGLT2 inhibitors, which cause similar glomerular hemodynamic changes. And this renal protective effects of low protein diet has been supported by several epidemiological studies. In a recent multi-center retrospective cohort study of 325 patients with non-dialysis dependent CKD in Japan, researchers examined the association of low protein diet with renal replacement therapy and all-cause mortality as a composite outcome. And as shown in the Kaplan-Meier curve here, lower versus higher protein intake was significantly associated with lower risk of renal replacement therapy and all-cause mortality over median follow-up of 4.1 years. Furthermore, studies have reported multiple benefits of a low-protein diet in CKD. In a recent systematic review and meta-analysis of 16 randomized controlled trials, which included at least 30 patients with non-dialysis dependent CKD, protein intake less than 0.8 gram per kilogram per day was shown to be associated with lower risk of metabolic complications, such as higher bicarbonate levels, lower phosphorus levels, and lower incidence of anemia, as well as lower risk of progression to ESKD and lower risk of all-cause mortality. The study also showed that safety and adherence to a low-protein diet was not inferior to our normal protein diet. And of note, there was no difference in the rate of malnutrition or protein energy wasting between low protein and normal protein diets. That being said, it is important to note that several challenges still remain with the implementation of a low protein diet in the management of CKD. The reasons for this include not overwhelmingly strong evidence for renal protection, particularly among diabetic versus non-diabetic population, unclear benefit in face of multiple other renal protective strategies, lack of established strategy for at-risk individuals, such as in the elderly, and clinical practical difficulties, such as the requirement for intensive expert input from dietitians and nutritionists. And in fact, there is a continuing debate over the effectiveness of a low-protein diet in patients with CKD. This article, just recently published in New England Journal of Medicine, very nicely summarized and discussed the pros and cons of a low-protein diet in patients with CKD using our clinical vignette. Then what about the recommendations of dietary protein intake in the current clinical practice guideline? As you know, KDOQI clinical practice guideline was recently updated, and based on high-quality global evidence from observational studies and clinical trials, this guideline has provided detailed recommendations and suggestions of the dietary protein intake for patients with CKD across different CKD stages and by the presence or absence of diabetes. Specifically, for adults with non-dialysis dependent CKD without diabetes, the guideline recommends a low-protein diet of 0.55 to 0.60 gram per kilogram per day, or a very low-protein diet of 0.28 to 0.43 gram per kilogram per day, supplemented with essential or ketogenic amino acids to meet dietary protein intake requirements. For adults with non-dialysis dependent CKD and diabetes, the guidelines suggest a more modest dietary protein restriction with a range of 0.6 to 0.8 gram per kilogram per day. But for adults on maintenance hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis, irrespective of diabetic status, the guideline recommends a relatively higher protein intake with a range of 1.0 to 1.2 gram per kilogram per day because of the known protein losses in dialysate and greater protein catabolism from metabolic stress in this particular population. Okay, now switching gears, as the last topic of my presentation, I'm going to discuss gut microbiota targeted interventions in CKD. Currently, the potential gut microbiota targeted interventions in CKD include dietary modifications, supplementation of probiotics, and symbiotics, constipation treatment, and a few others, such as intestinal dialysis and fecal microbiota transplantation. And as you can imagine, all of these interventions have been shown to modulate the gut microbiota towards a reduced production of uremic toxins and thereby confer several health benefits. But for the sake of time and everyone's interest, today I'll mainly talk about dietary modifications as one of their gut microbiota targeted interventions in CKD. Here, I'm showing a schematic summary of the production of uremic toxins in CKD, just to give you a better idea of the causes and consequences of dietary protein intake in the context of gut microbiota in CKD. As many of you know, the gut dysbiosis in CKD is typically characterized by the shift from a saccharidic or carbohydrate fermenting bacterial phenotype to a more proteolytic bacterial phenotype. So the proteolytic bacteria dominating in the gut of patients with CKD accelerates the fermentation of animal-derived proteins and contributes to the excessive production of precursors of uremic toxins. For example, certain intestinal bacteria, such as E. coli, have a tryptophanase that converts tryptophan to indole, which is subsequently translocated into the systemic circulation across impaired gut barrier, and then metabolized by the liver to indoxyl sulfate. Importantly, all of these uremic toxins are mainly secreted by the kidneys under normal kidney function. However, when kidney function declines, they accumulate progressively in the blood and exert deleterious effects on various tissues and organs, such as renal tubular cell damage, enteral dysfunction, leukocyte activation, coagulation disturbances, insulin resistance, and cardiac fibrosis and hypertrophy, collectively contributing to adverse clinical outcomes, such as CKD progression and cardiovascular diseases. Interestingly, a recent study has suggested that the gut dysbiosis is also associated with protein energy wasting in patients with CKD. In this cross-sectional study of 88 hemodialysis patients, researchers compared the gut microbiota composition by the status of PW and showed that there was a striking difference in the composition of gut microbiota between patients with and without PW, with a significant reduction in butylate-producing bacteria or beneficial bacteria in those with PW. Regarding the effects of dietary modifications on the gut microbiota, certain types of diets have been shown to have a unique gut microbiota modulation property. And one of such diets is a low-protein diet. According to a recent longitudinal study of patients with non-dialysis CKD undergoing a low-protein diet for 6 months, those who adhered to their low-protein diet had significantly lower levels of serum paracristyl sulfate, along with changes in their gut microbiota profile. And this remitoxin lowering effect associated with a low protein diet has been considered as one of the major benefits attributable to gut microbiota modulation. A similar gut microbiota modulation property has also been reported for a plant-based diet. As many of you know, this diet focuses primarily on plant products such as whole grains, seeds, nuts, fruits, and vegetables, while minimizing animal products, including meat, fish, and dairy. Regarding the effects of plant-based diet on outcomes in the context of gut microbiota modulation, a recent cross-sectional study of hemodialysis patients demonstrated that higher adherence to plant-based diets was significantly associated with lower levels of serum indoxyl sulfate and lower relative abundances of bacteria that were related to elevated indoxyl sulfate levels. The study also showed that increased intake of food items considered unhealthy, such as animal fats, sweets, and desserts, were associated with gut bacteria linked to higher remitoxin levels. Importantly, a plant-based diet has also been associated with hard clinical outcomes, such as mortality in patients with ESKD and non-dialysis dependent CKD. The upper study shown here is from a multinational prospective study of more than 9,000 hemodialysis patients. And the lower study is from a meta-analysis of 6 core studies of patients with non-dialysis dependent CKD. And these 2 studies have reported essentially the same findings, showing a significantly lower risk of all-cause mortality associated with plant-based diets. So in terms of potential mechanisms underlying the better clinical outcomes associated with plant-based diet, a favorable modification of gut microbiota is certainly one of their key mechanisms. But as shown here, there are several other salutary effects that confer health benefits, such as reducing oxidative stress, mitigating metabolic acidosis, improving lipid profile, collectively contributing to better clinical outcomes. But when we think about the actual implementation of plant-based diet, people often share concerns about the potential risk of hyperkalemia due to increased intake of potassium-rich food sources. However, this perceived concern of hyperkalemia related to a plant-based diet has not been supported by current scientific evidence. For the sake of time, I don't go into more details, but this is presumably due to the enhancement of intestinal potassium excretion and alkalization induced by plant-based dietary sources. Then what about the current guideline recommendations about dietary potassium intake in CKD? Now, when we take a look at the updated KDOQI guideline, the statement on potassium says that in adults with CKD stage 3 to 5D or post-transplantation, it is reasonable to adjust dietary potassium intake to maintain serum potassium within the normal range. But as you may have noticed, this statement does not specify a certain upper limit of the amount of dietary potassium intake. It might be my personal biased interpretation, but I think this statement implies that we do not always need to restrict the potassium-rich plant-based dietary sources in patients with CKD, but instead can consider a more liberalized dietary approach to these patients, especially for those at minimal risk of developing hyperkalemia. In terms of their type of plant-based diet, recently a so-called plant-dominant low-protein diet or Plato diet has been proposed. As you see here, this diet is a type of low-protein diet with dietary protein intake of 0.6 to 0.8 gram per kilogram per day, with at least 50% plant-based sources, with dietary sodium less than 4 gram per day, and dietary energy of 30 to 35 kilocalorie per kilogram per day. Given there are multiple known benefits of plant-based diet and low-protein diets on the gut microbiota that I mentioned earlier, this newly proposed diet may serve as a novel gut microbiota targeted dietary intervention for patients with CKD. In this context, I bring here one last slide about the processed low-protein brown rice as a potential good dietary source of Plato diet, especially for people in Japan and in other Asian countries where rice is consumed as a staple food. A recent review article extensively discussed this product by providing very detailed information about its energy and nutrient contents. And as shown in the bar graphs here, compared with non-treated white rice, the processed low-protein brown rice was shown to have a much lower protein content while maintaining a comparable energy content to the non-treated white rice. And this low-protein brown rice also comes with lower potassium and phosphorus contents, and has also been shown to have higher amount of dietary fibers and higher antioxidant activities. Although further studies are needed, this fiber-rich processed low-protein brown rice may be a promising food source for dietary modifications in CKD, targeting the gut microbiota. Okay, now I wrap up my presentation. Protein energy wasting is highly prevalent in patients with CKD. Dietary protein restriction may be a safe and effective means for the management of CKD. A plant-dominant low-protein diet or Plato diet may serve as a novel gut microbiota targeted therapeutic strategy for the management of CKD. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sumitra. Is he on the line? Online? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, so nice presentation. So we have a guest here. So are there any questions, comments from the audiences? Doctor, please.
Yes, Ashiwakino from Tokushima University. Very good talk, and I'm very inspired by the low protein diet. So my question is, actually, I questioned this. I made this question to the previous presenter. Do you think is there any drawback of the protein dominant diet? I think everyone totally agree with the low protein plant-based low protein diet. But is there any pitfall or drawback for the Plato diet? Well, I think that the amino acid content is not similar to the human body. So some essential amino acid will be lacking eating this plant diet. How do you think about that?
Question and comment with the comment that there is a possibility that certain amino acid nutrient amino acids may be lacking, and in certain type of patients, such as in the elderly. But according to the systematic review meta-analysis of randomized control trial that I showed in my presentation, they found no significant difference in the risk of PW or muscle wasting. But that may not necessarily indicate we don't need to care much about the possible risk of PW associated with low protein diet. So, and as also mentioned in the later slides, there are several challenges that should remain and to be clarified in the future studies. One of such challenges is, as I mentioned, the risk of possible protein energy waste in certain patient population, such as high-risk individuals. So, so we are still need to be balancing the risk and benefit of actually implementing low-protein diet based on the individual patient health condition or individual basis and personalized dietary approaches. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anna, please. Dr. Kitajima.
Hi, I am Megumi Oshima at Canada University. Thank you for interesting presentation. I have one question, and evaluation of PEW is sometimes difficult to perform in clinical practice. So, do you think what is an important factor, or is there any method of easily evaluate PEW in clinical practice?
Yes, that's, thank you very much for the important comment and question. Yeah, I totally agree with the practically sometimes inconvenient scoring system to diagnose the PEW. So we should have some simplified or modified scoring system to diagnose PEW. I don't remember the detailed individual criteria, but we should have some modified version of the PEW diagnosis. So we may want to use those type of simplified version to diagnose PEW in clinical practice.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. Are there any questions? Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Sumita. So enjoy staying in America. Go to lunch break. Thank you very much.
Always,